We are made to believe that hospitals are safe and clean. We are made to believe that cure for cancer is just around the corner. That drug companies will save you from whatever disease you have. That vaccination brings unlimited immunity. That the United States has the best health in the world. How can that be when we are number 74 out of 171 countries? That when a child is sick, he needs antibiotics immediately. I want to debunk this idea. This is a manipulation of the American public. America is taking its medical advice from whoever is spending the most money in advertising. This is a great tragedy.
This audio CD is an interview of Dr. Amod Tootla by two gentlemen familiar with the use of this mangosteen fruit. Dr. Tootla is going to share with us not only his professional opinions, but how he and many other medical doctors have used the mangosteen preparation personally and in their practices.
Hi, I'm Ken Booster, president of Power Start Productions, and I'm here with Charlie Amenecker and Dr. Amod Tootla in the studio. Hello, Charlie.
Hello again, Ken and Dr. Tootla. It is truly a pleasure to be with you again. Ken, I really believe the listeners are going to be pleased and excited to hear what Dr. Tootla has to say.
Oh, I think so. We're going to ask questions that people just wish they could get immediate answers to, but they need a doctor's opinion. None of us lay people can or should play doctor, but we're very fortunate to have people like Dr. Tootla willing to speak up. First of all, let me introduce Dr. Tootla. Dr. Amod Tootla is licensed to practice and do surgery in 20 countries around the world. He's had 40 years of practice. He was a pioneer in laparoscopic colon and liver surgery. He was the first to use robotics in surgery in the United States. He was the first to use robotic surgery over the Internet when he operated on a patient in Buenos Aires from Bloomfield Hills, Michigan. The Consumer Research Council in Washington, D.C. has voted Dr. Tootla one of the top colon surgeons in the United States over the past 5 years. He is also listed as one of the top 2,000 scientists of the 21st century by Cambridge University, and today he is one of the first surgeons to do radiofrequency ablation of liver cancer. And he has close to 1,000 patients on mangosteen juice. So Dr. Tootla, welcome.
It's my pleasure. I've been in practice for over 40 years, and I have seen changes that has happened in this country. Instead of being an independent physician and making my own decision about my own patients, we are being bombarded on a daily basis by outside forces, whether it's a drug company or the news media. When you open the television today, what you see the drug companies appealing directly to the public, telling them, ask your doctor if this medication is right for you. This is a new phenomenon that has been happening in the last 20 years. I don't believe that patients benefit best when the media tells them how they should take care of their health. So I'm here to debunk that theory, to say that you must listen to the media and big corporations. This is what medicine has become. It's a big corporation. And the idea is to make money. It's not people's health anymore. And that's why our health is going down the drain. We are not getting better. We're getting sicker and sicker by the day.
Well, Dr. Tootla, what is the gross national budget for health care in this country?
At present, we are spending over $3 trillion for health care. We should be number one country in the world, but we are not. We're number 74 out of 170 countries. This is something that's wrong with this picture. Why are we spending so much money and yet our people are not healthy? There are 73 other countries in the world where the people are healthier than we are. We need to change this. We need to change the way medicine is practiced in this country. It should not be a big corporation calling the shots. It's between your doctor and yourself. You get the information, you decide what is best for you. Doctors need to treat patients, but sometimes what we prescribe for our patients is not always the best thing. There are better ways to deal with our patients, to make them healthier. To control disease in this country is not the way we are doing it at the moment. What we need to do is prevent people getting sick.
And that would include something like mangosteen. How were you introduced to mangosteen, and what have you seen happen in your practice because of that?
Well, I've been convinced over many, many years, having grown up in South Africa, that you can use natural substances and stay healthy. Folk medicine goes back thousands of years. And these people didn't have double-blind studies. but they knew it worked. Maybe they didn't know what the chemical makeup of those natural stuff was, but they know that it worked. So there is some truth to what our grandparents were using, but modern medicine has ignored it.
And so you heard about the mangosteen and started using it?
I heard about the mangosteen. I have an open mind. I always have an open mind. I always want to do something different than what I'm doing. If it's working very well, then I don't need to change it. But I know chemotherapy and radiation is not the answer for cancer. We have made no progress in the last 50 years. And they're still dying when they can be saved or can prolong their lives. And this is when I became interested to see how these xanthones and this mangosteen will affect. First, how it affected me. I used it on myself. I had arthritis in my left knee from an injury I sustained many years ago while skiing downhill in Wyoming. And I had 2 major surgery on my left knee, and I play a lot of tennis. I always end up with severe pain in my left knee after the first set. I've been on this mangosteen juice for 18 months now. I can play 3 and 4 sets at a time without any pain. And this is when I became very interested.
So you attributed all that to the mangosteen?
The xanthones that are in the mangosteen fruit. Then I started using it on my patients. Most of my patients are older because I deal with colon cancer, and colon cancer doesn't occur in teenagers. So most of my patients are older. They have other diseases, arthritis, hypertension, diabetes, migraine headache, and you name it. And they were coming back and telling me how well they are doing. And I was surprised that this is working in so many different disease processes. I did my own research to see if there's any scientific papers written on the xanthones. And there are many, many papers written over the years, which we are in the Western Hemisphere have completely ignored. And I urge my colleagues to look into this, find out, is there another way to treat patients? When I started 18 months ago, most of the doctors thought I was foolish. However, they knew my reputation. They knew I am a leader in what I do. I always want to do something different for my patients. I didn't have a single doctor who said, well, maybe you're right. But today we have over 500 doctors who are using it. If we can find a substance which works at the cell level, then we can control the diseases. We can prevent the cells from degenerating or changing its character. And if we can do that, we can prevent cancers, we can prevent arthritis, we can prevent most of the disease process. And the xanthones work at the cell level. They prevent damage to the cell, to the DNA of the cell. And this works at the cellular level, and that's why it's so effective in so many different conditions.
Can you give us some examples?
Well, for instance, heart disease. We all know that heart disease is due to inflammation in those blood vessels of the heart. This is the deposition of LDL cholesterol with calcification is an abnormal situation, and the body deals with any abnormal situation by creating inflammation. Inflammation results in swelling, and suddenly the blood supply is cut off from the heart muscles, and you get a heart attack. Using the xanthone, which is the most powerful anti-inflammatory substance known to man, we can, I believe, can prevent a lot of the heart attacks. As you know, heart attack is one of the major causes of death in this country. And on this basis, a lot of other diseases work the same way. Cancer, for instance, cancer. Cancer starts with changes in the DNA of a cell. When those altered cells multiply, they produce cancer. So we need to tackle at that level. It is always too late when the disease has occurred. It is better to prevent disease than trying to cure disease.
Can you give us an example of some patients who have had results?
Well, I had a patient in whom I removed the entire colon about 18 years ago. She had severe arthritis. She was homebound, unable to drive, unable to button a coat or tie her shoelace. And this was the very beginning of my experience with the mangosteen juice. And I advised her to take a bottle from me because she couldn't afford it, to see if it works. She was due for an operation within 2 weeks, a major operation on her hand to transfer tendons so she can bend her thumb. So she took the juice, and within 5 days, she called me back, very excited over the phone, wanting to see me right away. And I was surprised why she had such urgency. And she came into my office with a bottle which she hasn't opened in 10 years, was opening the bottle in front of me, moving all her fingers. This is the most dramatic thing I have seen in my 40 years of practice.
So she didn't need the surgery?
She didn't need the surgery. She has been on steroids for a number of years for her asthma, and this caused a tremendous wastage of her bone. It depleted her bone of calcium. She has very fragile bones. This cannot be altered at this stage. We know that the xanthones work in asthmatic patients. So my advice to people who have asthma, try using the mangosteen juice and wean yourself off of these steroids, because steroids are harmful to your body.
Well, obviously, this doesn't work 100% of the time. We know that. But what would your estimate be generally in symptomatic relief?
Well, from my personal experience, over 90% of my patients have had relief from using the mangosteen juice.
Well, Dr. Tootla, just a moment ago, you brought up the subject of cancer. That's a very sensitive issue in American medicine today and botanicals. What do you see the role of mangosteen in the fight against cancer? And at the same time, I'd like to throw this question at you that happens quite often to us. We'll get a phone call from someone who says, this friend or my aunt or this uncle are on chemotherapy or radiation. What do we do? And that, quite frankly, makes me very nervous as a layperson. What are your recommendations as a doctor?
The medical doctors over the years have been taught in their medical school and residency to use prescription medication like chemotherapy and radiation for cancers. They have never been taught alternative medicine. People in the Far East and other countries have been using natural substances for almost any disease, including cancer. We don't have statistics to prove that every patient in those countries were cured of cancer. However, we know that cancer occurs from alteration of cells, and if you can prevent alteration of cells, you can prevent cancer. My advice to the medical profession in this country, and maybe around the world, is to have an open mind. Look at this substance. Do your own investigation, do your own reading, and see if what we have found out so far, whether it will work on their patients or not. Most physicians are afraid to go outside the box, to think outside the box, because they are afraid of what the medical society, the organization they belong to, the medical board, what will they say? Here's a doctor who decided not to write prescriptions anymore, but to use a natural substance. I don't advocate that every doctor should give up a prescription medications. What I'm advocating is physicians to look into this substance, see if it's going to work on their patients. It does no harm. They are using drugs now which are harmful to patients. 180,000 Americans die every year from prescription drugs. So my advice to you is look into this. It does no harm. There is no side effects. I'm not saying that it's going to cure every patient that you use the mangosteen on, but investigate it yourself. Have an open mind.
What about the aging process? Can this help things like osteoarthritis, osteoporosis?
These are all aging processes. As you get older, hormonal changes occur. We are being bombarded on a daily basis by free radicals. As we sit in the studio, we are breathing air that is unhealthy, is full of free radicals. We are going to eat food that are not clean, has hormones in it, has antibiotics in it, has all kind of polluted substances in it, and we eat this. And the oxidation process that occurs in the body produces free radicals.
This is a fairly new phenomenon. I mean, it's over the last maybe 25 years or so.
We didn't pay much attention before that. We are finding out now free radicals are the buzzword. This is what causes damage to our cells. We can stop the aging process. We can stop diseases that go on forever in our body. From the day we are born, our cells are undergoing changes. So my advice is everybody can take this juice, even infants, to prevent them getting diseases as they get older.
Well, doctor, speaking of diseases, here we are in Western medicine, where we hear things like, go see your doctor and get this test or that test. They call it early detection. What kind of a way of prevention is that? It makes no sense.
It is well known that the insurance companies and government do pay physicians for early detection. Early detections mean you have the disease already in your body. The early detection can prolong your life. If we can remove polyps from your colon, we can prevent colon cancer. It's a good idea, but why not prevent colon polyps? We have been using anti-inflammatory for many years from patients getting polyps of the colon. For instance, we use aspirin. We have scientific proof that aspirin prevents colon polyps. So does Celebrex and Vioxx, which I have used personally. But these have tremendous side effects. So if we can find a substitute which is natural with no side effects and prevent colon polyps, we can prevent colon cancer. And we can save over 100,000 patients a year dying from colon cancer.
Are you saying that this mangosteen juice could be that kind of a substance?
It is that kind of a substance.
It is that kind of substance.
It's a very strong anti-inflammatory. And most disease starts as inflammation.
What have you found in the use of mangosteen as far as women's health is concerned?
Well, women are very different from men. They have different hormones. As they age, they get hormonal changes. They are females because of their estrogen level. We are male because of our testosterone level. As you age, the hormonal balances change. What happens in women, as the estrogen level falls, the bones changes. Every woman after the age of 35 starts seeing hormonal changes. So they should be on calcium to prevent the loss of calcium because the hormone changes. And when they go through menopausal changes, they get symptoms of hot flashes, night sweats. And this xanthones and the mangosteen juice is a hormonal modulator. It will prevent patients from getting those symptoms and maybe help in the loss of calcium from the bone. There are other conditions where women go through changes that this substance can help.
Hot flashes, maybe?
Hot flashes, night sweats. We have examples, many examples, in fact. Our women have no more symptoms.
You have patients like that?
I have many patients.
Let me ask you a question, too, on something like, well, I think about a third of Americans have something called acid reflux or something similar to that, which is pretty nasty.
Acid reflux, 20% of Americans in this country have acid reflux. That means 20 out of every 100 patients. It's a major problem.
Why is that?
You cannot see a television without being bombarded with acid reflux and how to treat acid reflux. These are advertisements put on by drug companies. What substance to use, whether it is purple pill or whatever it is. Acid reflux is not a benign condition. Acid should remain in your stomach. Because of our lifestyle, because of obesity, because we have a condition called hiatal hernia, the acid goes into the lower esophagus and come up to your throat sometime. And the lining of the esophagus is different from the lining of the stomach. Once the acid gets into the esophagus, it burns the lining of the esophagus. It destroys the cells. And this happens repeatedly. You go through inflammation. Eventually you can end up having cancer of the esophagus. If not cancer, you get a stricture because scar tissues form when you got inflammation repeatedly, and the healing process results in scar tissue. You get strictures. I just lost a very good friend of mine who was an OBGYN doctor, just died from a severe stricture of the esophagus. Could not eat anymore. And he refused any kind of feeding. So
basically the acid reflux we think of as something that just to be put up with, but what you're saying is it's a lot more dangerous than that. It is dangerous. And this mangosteen juice can help alleviate that? It will neutralize the acid and prevent inflammation of the lower esophagus. How much do you have to drink in order to accomplish that? An adult who has this condition should take 2 ounces 3 times a day. Also, you got to change your life habits. If you're obese, you need to reduce your weight. If when you lie flat in the bed at night, there is no more gravitation, so the acid gets back into the esophagus much easier. So you need to elevate the head of your bed to prevent the acid reflux. Of course, you should change your diet. Heavy intake of caffeine or carbonated drinks or a heavy meal before bedtime causes distension of the stomach, and that pushes acid into your esophagus as well. So it's a combination of life changes and also taking a benign substance with no side effects called the mangosteen juice. I can understand that. I've heard people who work out hard, these people who go into the gym and work out for an hour or so at a time, and athletes who are constantly using their muscles should use a product similar to this. Are there reasons for that, and does it work? Exercise and all are very good for you.
to keep your body healthy. However, exercise produces free radicals. So you need to counteract free radicals. So this juice is good for athletes, and athletes get injured, whether they are basketball players or baseball players or football players, they injure their joints. And it's been the habit over many years to inject those joints with steroids. Those are dangerous substances to use. And my suggestion is to the athletes, no matter what kind of sport they play, is to not take steroids and use the mangosteen juice. We have numerous athletes who are using it now and are getting good results.
Now, we know that the Olympic Committee and other laboratories have certified mangosteen juice as not a drug. It's safe to use as far as professional athletes are concerned and amateur athletic competition. How much would they use? Do you have some suggestion on that?
Well, athletes, they are afraid that any substance that shows up in the blood, and a lot of athletes have gotten into trouble using hormones. Now, this will not show up in your bloodstream because it's a natural stuff. An athlete who has an acute injury to his joint should use at least 4 ounces 3 times a day and should go on a maintenance dose because it will help his body. It will give him energy. So it is important that they use this juice all the time. But for maintenance, I would suggest they use 2 ounces 3 times a day with meals.
Well, Dr. Tootla, there's a subject with children and healthy people, and why should they use this mangosteen juice?
Well, when a child is conceived, at the very moment of conception, the mother's blood supply goes into that fetus. And you hope that the mother's blood supply is free of metals, free of free radicals, free of any pollution in the atmosphere that she has been exposed to for a number of years. So we need to protect our fetuses. When a child is born, it is perfectly normal to give the child a couple drops of mangosteen juice, because from the day a child is born, the child is exposed to all kind of pollution in the atmosphere, maybe in the mother's milk. We don't know, but all evidence points to pollution occurs in the mother's blood and exposes the unborn child. So my advice is to use the juice from the time of conception and throughout the child's life. Chronic disease does not come overnight. It takes many, many years of changes in the cell. For instance, heart disease doesn't come overnight. Arthritis does not come overnight. Immune diseases do not come overnight. This happens very gradually over many, many years. The only way I know of to prevent this kind of problem is to use substances that are natural with no side effects. And the only substance I know of as of today is the mangosteen juice. So at the moment, my advice is to use the mangosteen juice, keep yourself healthy. And if you do have any kind of disease process going on and you use the juice and get rid of the disease process, the only way you're going to stay healthy in the future is to keep using the mangosteen juice.
Well, Dr. Tootla, I heard in a recent seminar, one of your fellow doctors mentioned that there's been a 25% reduction in the immune systems of our children born in the last 25 years. Can you kind of tie that one together with this natural product?
I believe strongly that this 25% will be increasing every year. We have now pediatric allergists who are specialists in treating children with allergy. 25, 30 years ago, we did not have pediatric allergists treating children with allergy problem. We have a tremendous increase in allergy in this country. Children are coming down with asthmatic attacks and allergies to all kinds of substances. This is strictly related to the pollution in the food, in the water. And this has to change. Otherwise, we're going to have future generation coming down with more and more diseases. We're going to spend more and more money. There is a limit to how much money this country can spend. We have 40 million Americans with no insurance. They have no protection. So we have to consider a different approach to the way we practice medicine.
Perhaps looking at the wellness side of it. Have you had patients that have had good luck in using the mangosteen juice as far as the allergies and asthma?
I have numerous patients who have given up their medication for asthma since I started using the mangosteen juice. Numerous patients.
Let me ask you one last question then. If you were to recommend mangosteen juice, I've heard that there are some dried forms of mangosteen on the market, perhaps pills or things like that. Do you use any of those type of products?
The only mangosteen juice I use is the one that has all the xanthones in it, that comes out of a fresh fruit, the entire fruit with the pericarp. The puree of this juice is the one I use. There may be a lot of other products on the market. I do not recommend people use this because we don't know what it is constituted of. And if you don't get the result you desire, it's because you're not using the right juice. I believe the mangosteen juice has the highest concentration of xanthones. The other juices that are on the market, we have no idea how many xanthones they have or how diluted they are or what other substances they use in their product. A typical example is a patient of mine who had psoriasis for 10 years, and he has seen 3 different dermatologists. When I saw him, I gave him 2 bottles of those to see if it will have any effect on his psoriasis. Within 2 weeks, first time in his 10 years, he no longer had psoriasis. He decided then to go and buy the juice elsewhere, and his psoriasis came back. So my recommendation is look for the best, that has the best concentration of xanthones, and it's all natural, and the entire fruit is used, and the only substance I know of is the mangosteen juice.
Well, very good. We want to thank you for taking your time today. I know you're very, very busy, and I know you've been working in places like South Africa and promoting mangosteen juice even there. But thanks for taking the time out today. And Charlie, I really thank you for participating today. I think that we've all learned something, and I just hope that the American public really takes this to heart, Dr. Tootla. I know that you're passionate about it, and I think many of us are, since we have learned what you already know. So thanks again for joining us today.
It's my pleasure.
Thank you, Dr. Tootla.
Look, I'd just like to say something to those of you who are listening to this CD. Get back to the person who gave you this information and get more information. It's the best thing you could possibly do for you and your family. You can also go to Dr. Tootla's website at drtootla.com. That's drtootla.com, and sign up for his electronic newsletter. Look, you've only got one life to live. Your kids need this product, you need this product, and you probably know a dozen or more people that really need this product. Get it to them before it's too late.
Power Star.